Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm an e-learning evangelist here at eLearning Brothers. Today we're going to be talking about customizing a customizable courseware scenario in Storyline. We've already done one of these on Lectora a month ago, and next month we'll be doing one of these on Captivate, but today we'll be talking about Storyline. This webinar will be recorded. We have our very own Adam Cannon, our Storyline evangelist, with us today. Thank you, Adam, for joining us. If you guys have questions during this webinar, we'll be ready to answer your questions in the questions panel. We'll try to bring those up during the webinar, and Adam can field those for you. So feel free to use it as you need it. We'll try to get to as many of the questions as we can. Also, just so you know, one of the things that we like to do after the webinar is try to follow up as soon as possible. Sometimes it's just to get feedback. Most of the time, we'd like to touch base and find out if anyone needs some one-on-one clarification about what the webinar topic was after the fact. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, Adam.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. So today we're talking about customizing a customizable courseware scenario in Storyline, as he said. And that's sort of a tongue twister in itself, but the process is perhaps much easier than saying the title. We're going to be using Storyline 2 today. That's what all of our customizable courseware is built in, but a lot of the principles that we'll be discussing will work as well in Storyline 3 or Storyline 360. So this is transferable. So let's go ahead and jump right in, and so we'll get in there. Like Andrew said, feel free to jump in at any time and ask questions, and we'll go. But here's what we're gonna cover today. So we're gonna talk about how to prepare to personalize your customizable courseware. So we're gonna talk about what you need to do to prepare for that, and then how to personalize it, and then some tips and tricks and things for customizing for your branding or organization needs. So let's start off with a poll, finding out what your role is. So Andrew, if you can fire up that poll.
There you go. It's up. What is your role in e-learning development? Go ahead and vote. Those responses are coming in. We've got a lot of instructional designers and trainers here, a few e-learning developers. We got one or two e-learning managers or learning managers as well. No SMEs, though. All designers and developers. I'll go ahead and close this off in 3, 2, 1. And here's those results. So 57% instructional designers and trainers, 39% e-learning developers, and a few learning managers out there.
Great. And this skill is good for everyone to know. A lot of it applies to developers because we are talking about getting into the source files and doing some things. But I know that if your experience is anything like mine in the instructional design field, you are sometimes asked to be a jack of all trades. And so these skills will apply, and then of course for the managers and things, it's helpful to know and to get a glimpse into our customizable courseware. So let's go ahead and move on, and let's look at now the next poll of our what's your familiarity with the customizable courseware?
You know it, purchased, or you're going to purchase it, you've downloaded the free course, and you just want to figure out how to customize that, or you don't know much about it. What is it that drew you here to this webinar? It looks like the responses are coming in. About 50% of our audience doesn't know much about it. There's a lot of great information on our blog about customizable courseware if you want to learn a little bit more outside of the Storyline aspects. I'll go ahead and close this off in about 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and here's those results. So 51% of our audience doesn't know much about it, but a good 25% have heard of it and are curious about it. So hopefully you'll get some of your questions answered here in today's webinar.
Good, and I'm glad to see that we've got kind of a half and half between have heard of it or don't know what it is. We are going to touch on it briefly, just for review, and in case those who have heard of it maybe don't know all about it, but that'll be a brief synopsis, and then like Andrew says, there's more information on our website and our blogs and things like that goes in depth. In fact, there's a whole series of webinars, I believe, isn't there, Andrew, covering various aspects of customizable courseware.
Yeah, we published a blog earlier this week that it's kind of a little knowledge jewel. It has links to every single blog and webinar that's been published on Customizable Courseware inside of it. So you can definitely get your questions answered by going to that blog.
Good. And so now let's look at, we've talked a little bit about this in the first poll, but let's look at what your experience is. Which best describes you in terms of your skill in e-learning?
All right, we've got a few people that are new e-learning developers. Looks like about a quarter of our audience that's already voted say that they want to improve their dev skills. A large chunk are curious about customizable courseware. There's a few eLearning Brothers groupies out there. Hey, we hope you enjoy this webinar then. And about 6% other. Those votes are still coming in. I'll give you guys 3 more seconds. If you want to participate, last chance. 3, 2, 1. And here's those results. So yeah, we got a lot of people here that want to improve their development skills, and a lot of people that are curious about customizable courseware.
Good. Well, then we're hitting the right audience, and those who are our eLearning Brothers groupies will, I'm sure, get something out of this as well. I'm curious, what were some of the other responses that we got in the question panel?
Lots of people saying they're jack of all trades, and they're just more people curious about wanting to know how customizable courseware is going to work for them. Okay.
Well, that's great, and it's, like I said, I've spent my time being a jack of all trades, and so I really understand that. I've done design, development, all of it. So we're going to jump in. So here's customizable courseware at a glance. We're going to look at this, and right now there are 15 professional soft skills courses that are all developed using the big three in the e-learning tools. They're developed using Storyline, Lectora, and Captivate. And like Andrew mentioned at the beginning, we've done one of these sessions on Lectora, and we will do another one next month on Captivate, so that we will cover. So if you do happen to use multiple tools, you can get the same information across them all. They also have an ILT, an instructor-led training component. So if you want to do your training via classroom, we give you that. We give you the classroom guides and the slides that you need and things like that. And the source is fully customizable. You get the source code, and it's designed to be blended and interactive. We've used the best instructional design practices to come out. In addition to our professional soft skills library, we just announced just last week, I believe, the advent of our sales training library. So we have our free course out there for the sales training library, and that is in a partnership with Griffin Hill and their sales methodology, and so that will be out there as well. These courses are designed to be that you can take them and plug them right into your LMS as is, but also we give you the source code so that you can customize them as you see fit. If you want to put your own people in, your own branding in, if you want to put some of your own messaging in, you're welcome to do that. It's fully customizable. You can take out our slides, use your own whatever, but we give you that source code. But it is designed to be kind of just dropped right into your LMS or onto your web server and played right as it is. So again, here's what you get in the instructor-led training. You get your facilitator guide, your participant workbook, and so forth. You get a printable job aid. That's like one sheet of paper that you could print out, put in their cubes or by their phone or whatever. And then the quiz comes in an e-learning format, so that if you did want to track it, I know a lot of times people will still track their instructor-led training in an LMS, and that quiz gives you that reporting availability to say, yes, not only did they come to the class, but they took the quiz. So the quiz is in the SCORM and XAPI formats as well. And then, of course, we've got the 3 learning codes, and like I said, today we're focusing on Storyline. And so that's what you get in the course. So we're going to look now at customizing our scenario. So here's the scenario we're going to look at. We're looking at our conflict resolution course. In there they use an acronym called CATCH, and so we're going to understand how to catch that conflict. The audience that it was initially designed for was office workers, and there are 2 characters that you can see, Adrian and Susan. The event that we're using sort of as the trigger is that Adrian is failing to make eye contact, and so it's assuming disrespect, and so there's a conflict blooming there. Again, the tools were created in any of these three, but we're going to, so that's beforehand, and so this is something you want to think about as you're designing, as you're preparing this. Think about, here's what this scenario is designed for. How do I want to adjust that to ours? And so we're looking at now, we're going to say, we're going to look at it as our audience is restaurant workers. Maybe we own a restaurant and we're trying to train our staff. And so we're going to have our characters who's Brock, who's a millennial server, and Jennifer, who is a Gen X chef. And so we're keeping that trigger event the same, but we're changing up the characters and the scenario a little bit. And so we're going from there. So we're going to go now, we're going to jump out of this and go into our customizable courseware and look at that. And so we're out here on the eLearning Brothers website. And to get into our customizable courseware, there's a couple of ways. We can come in right here on our customizable courseware link. And so we'll go in there. And here you see the 15 skills, 15 courses that fall under our professional soft skills. And you can see there's a wide variety of them, from workplace harassment to work-life balance to communicating effectively and so on. And we're going to look at this conflict resolution course, so I will click on that. And here you're taken to the media object page, and this is nice because you see here all the information about it. It gives you a brief description right here. It tells you some of the features that are in here. It tells you what's included in the files, where your course files are, and what the software requirements are, and so forth. And then you see your four, so you've got your ILT and then your 3 learning tools here. And on this page also you have this preview that you can click on, and this will walk you through the course so that you can see what it's like. You can see it, try it before you buy it, kind of thing. You can't customize this at all, but it shows you what it is right off. You can use this menu button and you could jump through, and you could say, you know, we're going to look at sources of conflict, you know, all these different things. There's conflict scenario 1. So there's a whole bunch of these things that we can go through. And you can page through them and see what they are. It even plays the audio for you. You can see the summary and so forth. And so this is a great way to kind of get a feel for the course and see if it's what you want before you download it and purchase it. And so we're going to, I would click on the storyline one and download it. It takes some time, so I've already done that. So we're going to go out here and look at it. So I've got, we would download it and it would come on, and then we'd see our folder that had our information in it, and we'd unzip it. Sorry, here, let me just find it. All right, so here it is. So in the course, you see that we've got some assets, some fonts, and things like that. We've got our Getting Started document, which just tells us a little bit more about how to get started with the document, how to get started with the course. You see a course map here. We'll pull that up and let you look at that real quick. This just shows you a slide-by-slide, real quick layout. If there's multiple layers or slides in a scenario, it'll show you, an example of those. But it gives you a chance to just sort of walk through. This is good for when you're storyboarding. You can look at it and say, okay, I want to change this slide. And this is just a PDF that you can look at. So that's your course map. And then, of course, you've got your fonts. Every course comes with, we use customized fonts. And so as you open that, you'll see the assistant font file and the Pacifico font file. You need to make sure those are installed before you try to run the course if you're going to run it directly. Your assets include things like your job aid, which again will show you. It's just gives you a one-page sort of summary of what it is, tells you what the catch model is, and gives you just, again, it's just a one-pager bit of information that they can print off. And there's a link to that in the course as well. There's the PowerPoint, the icons that are used, background images, so forth. So that as you need to change things, we give you all of that right here so that you can go in and change it. And then in your published file, you see here are the 3 files where you would look at, that you can just grab and upload right to your LMS. So you would see your SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004, and XAPI. So looks like we've got a few questions, so I'm going to pause for a minute and let Andrew fire those at me.
Sure. Just one quick question at this time. Erica asks if you have a company font that is used universally, if we add a font type to that folder, will that mess anything up, or is that where we can add font types, fonts?
And we will go over that, where to add fonts. You can add any font you want. You don't need to necessarily add it to that folder. That folder is just where we put the fonts that we've used. What you would actually do is add it to your control panel fonts to make sure it's installed on your computer. So you could just go to your control panel and then open your fonts window.
So as long as it's installed, you'll be able to access it inside the customizable courseware, inside the tool.
That's correct. And so what I would do if I wanted to install those Assistant to Pacifico fonts is I would be back here and I'd unzip these, and then I would just click and drag the fonts right here into my fonts folder, and I would see a little install. But I've already got them installed, so you don't need to do that. But just make sure that they show up in your fonts panel, your fonts control panel window, and then they should be good to go. One thing to note though, if you install a font while Storyline is open, you're going to need to shut down Storyline and reopen it for it to be able to utilize that font. Otherwise, you'll do the drop-down list and it won't show up in there. Let's see, were there other questions there, Andrew, or was that it?
That's the only one right now.
Okay, good. So we've gone over now what you see in the folder. So now let's jump right into Storyline and we'll take a look at it. And let me just get here to the right one. So when I download the file and open it, I see this, and we're going to focus on this interaction right here. So we'll open that here in the slide. And you can see by looking at it that I've got my two characters here. I've got some information. It's fairly plain background, things like that. You can see my audio down here, and this is just essentially a transcript of the audio. When I preview it, and you probably won't be able to hear the audio playing, but it does play. We'll give it just a sec. And so then if I were to page through, but I only did the one slide, but it does, there's other things there. So it would go through to the next slide where there's some question and answer. But you see that in the Storyline file, the triggers are already made over here. There's image properties, things like that. The thing to note is that these slides, as far as the background is concerned, these slides use a master slide. And so we're going to look at how to change this right now, and we're going to go in and do some things. And so the first thing I want to change is, remember, this is for restaurant workers, so I want to change this gray background to a restaurant background. So I'm going to go in and view my slide master. And it gives it just a second for it to kind of catch up to me here before I can start clicking on things. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to want to go out to my stock assets library and to my stock photos, and I'm going to search for restaurant. And maybe I'm going to say restaurant interior. And then I can say get rid of the number of people. I can change the aspect to be horizontal, and let's see, maybe I decide I want to use something like this. So I go out and I get it, I download it, it goes into my downloads folder, and so then I'm out here. And now I want to change the background, so I can see that this is just a rectangle. It's just picture 2. So I can right-click on it and change my picture. And then I can go out to my downloads folder and go down and grab this restaurant picture and bring it in. Then I can resize it as I need to. Again, this is just quick. You might choose to do it other ways. You might choose to bring it out into another tool to crop it, things like that. I'm just going to crop it here just for kind of quickness. So I resize it to where I want it. I crop it down to about the size of the slide just so I don't have any extra overhang and such. Crop that, let it go. Now I want to change, maybe I want to change the font. Well, I want to change, I'll change the font elsewhere, but I want to change this header banner to be something different. I don't want this little arrow here, so I can get rid of that. There's another one there. And then I want to change this color. So I'm going to hide the text box so I don't see it. And then I want to change the color to, perhaps I want to choose something, a color from maybe in here, or maybe this green. So I click that and I change it. And then if I say I want to do a transparency of maybe 15%, so I can do that. And then I see that it's coming through. And so then that's done pretty well. I can go back to my slide master, close that, and so you see it's now applied it. And as you look over here on the left, you can see that it's actually applied it to all slides that use that layout. So that's a quick way to do that. And now if I want to change my font, I can just come in here. Unfortunately, these aren't placeholders. They're set up as just individual files, and so you'd have to, or individual objects, and so you'd have to go in here and you could change it. And I'm going to choose something that perhaps everyone has, so maybe we'll go out to, we'll say maybe Century Gothic. And we can choose that. I could choose to make it unbolded if I wanted. I could make it bigger or smaller. Maybe I want it a little bit smaller, and then I want it left aligned. So I can do that. Again, I can copy that, and I could use a format painter to then go in to each slide and do that as well. So I can use that format painter to get it down. Again, it only did it on the one, but this is just doing it quick. So that's changing that really quickly. If I wanted to insert a logo, so we're going to go out and we're going to grab a picture. And I'm going to go out to my files and grab my icons, and maybe I want to include this white chef logo. I want to bring him in and put him up here. So I can do that and have him in there. And so I've already got a good start on that. But I want to put him, on the one I'm working on here, which is, so we'll put him on this one. Okay, but I don't want my office workers now, and so I need to change them. So again, I can go out here to back to my site and go into my cutout people library. I want photorealistic, and if I look back at my my storyline file, I can see that this guy's kind of a young guy. He's looking at his phone. And this one's a little bit older. We said a Generation X, so maybe not a baby boomer like this lady, but we want a female. And so I can come over here, and first thing I start off is I say I want a gender. So I can say male. I can say age. I want a young adult. I want industry. I want food service. And so I can go from there, and I can say, let's see, I want a server, so maybe I want this Caleb. He's kind of a young-looking guy. We'll pick him. And then once I've got it selected, I can go into my props, and I could say, find me ones where he's got the phone. Oh, this one has no phone, so maybe I want to choose a different one. So let's see if Tyler has a phone. All right, well, I know what the problem is here. I need to go back to getting rid of the filter for the one guy I want for sure, which is this guy, Harry. I know he's got one where he's on a phone. Okay, so I see him on a phone. I want him looking down at the phone. So we'll pick this one. I always download a large size because then that allows for less pixelation and things when I get big. So if I resize it to bigger. So I can go in here and I can right-click on this guy and I can change picture. And then I go back to my downloads folder, and I can go grab him, and I bring him in, and then I can resize him as I need to. And again, it doesn't maintain the cropping, but the reason I want to do that change picture instead of just cutting and pasting or whatever, is if I change a picture, then it holds any triggers or any actions that were on it, any animations are held. So I will go in here and I'll resize him a little bit, move him up, maybe make him a little bigger. And remember, holding down the Shift key as you drag that corner will maintain the aspect ratio so that you don't get him stretched or skewed in any way. So I'll shrink him down to that size. Okay, maybe I want to bring him down just a little bit because I want to move him down. Okay, and then I can go do the same thing for her. So I'm going to go back out to this site, and I'm going to go back to my cutout people, photorealistic, and this time I want a female. I want maybe a middle-aged, and I say I want industry to be food service, and I want it to be a chef, and so maybe I'm going to grab this one, and I look back at my file and I say, okay, she's got her arms folded. So I want to come in here and I want to say actions, arms folded. And so I could go in here and I could say, maybe I want this one, Arlene 2. Again, I download the large size file. I can come back over here, right click on her, change the picture, and go grab Arlene 2 and open it and bring it in. And again, resize her, bring her, you know, if I were spending more time, I would probably do more to make sure that they were exactly the same size. We're just trying to do this quick. So I resize her back down, and now I've got that, and maybe, so now I've got her in there, and I can do that same thing on each of these slides. I can go grab, you know, now that I've got her, I could save this as a picture. So I can save it as a picture, and I could say, you know, Arlene cropped 1, and I'm going to save her into my pictures file. And then on this next slide, if I wanted to change her, I could come in here and just change picture, and then go out to my pictures file and find Arlene cropped 1 and bring her in, and then she should be about the right size and space. So that's how you would bring in a picture, make it real quick to change it. You change the top here. Maybe I want to change this text to be a color now that's closer to one of the colors in the picture, so I go get this green, and I can pull that in, and maybe I want it bold, and I need to change a font to maybe Arial, or if I don't want it bold. So I can see that. And again, this matches the audio file, and so I could edit that audio file. You can go in and record your own audio as need be, and we can look at it that way. But then you've got this pretty much set up. I can go in now and I could preview, you know, I could preview the project. I could preview just this scene. Again, it's going to take a while because it's trying to preview the whole thing. But if I just preview this slide, we'll do that quicker. It won't show the next slides, but so you can see that it comes in, and again, the audio would play. I can see that the icon's there, and it's what I wanted it to be. And again, it tells me it's not available for preview because I don't have the next slide done. But that's so that pretty much covers, you know, really quickly customizing one scenario. So now you go in and you would do that same thing on all of these, and that would take care of your scenario. You know, again, just with a few little things. I might want to do some things here where I take out this faded object because the background is showing through more, so I'd take out that transparency, and you know, I can adjust the audio and so forth. So I'll take a pause for a minute, and we'll see if there's any more questions, and we'll handle those, and then we'll move on.
One question that has come up is when you purchase a Customizable Courseware library license, does that include the Cutout People library? Do you know that, Adam?
I don't believe so. I believe they're separate libraries, and so for Storyline, you would need to purchase an access to our probably our master pack, which includes the stock images, um, and the cutout people and so forth. But you would also be welcome to use your own cutout people. If you had, employees that you wanted to put in here, you could certainly do that as well, and even use your own backgrounds here. You don't have to use ours. One of the nice things that I'll touch on really quickly that you would get with a Storyline subscription is if you go into the cutout people, I can see these Storyline characters. So these are packs. These are pre-built packages of 10 poses each. So here's a food service one that he has 10 poses that he's got that are pre-built, 10 states. And so as I brought that in, it would just be a template file, and then I could bring it in, and then instead of changing this slide to slide, I could just change his state. So that I could have Harry in here, and I would go into the states, and if I clicked on him, instead of having to add my own states of Harry, there would already be 10 states built out. So that's a great feature that you have for Storyline that you don't have for our other tools that you would get as part of that master pack. Other questions?
There's a question here. What is the difference between Storyline and Storyline 360 as far as customizable courseware goes? Does it operate the same, or are there differences if you are using 360 as opposed to Storyline?
All of our customizable courseware will work in Storyline 3 and 360 for the customizable courseware side of things. Our games sometimes get a little bit different, but because they use different motion paths and things like that. But our customizable courseware should work fairly seamlessly. If not, it gets you, 90-95% of the way there, and there may be a little bit of tweaking. The one thing that is big difference between Storyline 2 and Storyline 3 and 360 is the responsiveness. So you don't have the ability to see this on a mobile device right now in Storyline 2, whereas in 3 and 360 up here on the top right you would see the little different views that you could preview in, from your tablet landscape to tablet portrait to phone and so forth. And so you would have that ability to see how it looked in those, and Storyline does a great job of adjusting it down, unlike Captivate and Lectoria, where you might have to go into each view and make sure that it looks like what you want it to look like at each of those views. But it should work just fine in 3 and 360.
Okay, those are all the questions about customizable courseware.
Great. Basically, we've now talked about, when you're preparing to personalize your customizable courseware, you need to make sure that you've got all your assets in mind. It's always quicker to have them ready beforehand than to do like I did it and search them. I always suggest looking through the customizable courseware, look through the course, whether in that preview mode or as you downloaded it and you're looking through it, just to get a feel for how the interactions work, and to see what the target is on those. Look through them, make sure that you understand what's going on and what characters you're going to need and so forth. We talked about personalizing, how to customize, how to do that when we went into the font, into the icons. If you had your own icon, your own color scheme that you wanted to use, your own font, and then customizing a scenario for your organization and brand. Again, most organizations will have a style guide that they want to use, or a branding guidelines that they'll need to use. And so, again, because you get these source files right there, you can go ahead and pull them in as needed. You can add other Storyline interactions as you've created them, and things like that. So it's really quite slick. So I know we've handled questions, but if there are more that come up, now's your time to ask them. This is kind of the gist of what I wanted to go through, but we'll see if there are any more questions before we move on.
Yeah, one more question has popped up. As far as publishing goes, as far as a finished product, does this have to go into an LMS? Can this be published independent?
It can be published independently. We give you the customizable courseware, or we give you those zip files that you can put right into your LMS. But when you publish it, you can publish it for an LMS. You can publish it for a CD even, so it runs like as an executable file on a CD. Or you can publish it for the web, where you publish it as HTML5 and you could publish it for mobile using the Articulate player, the AMP, the Articulate mobile player. So no, it doesn't have to go into an LMS. And in fact, the zip files that we gave you are designed to work on an LMS. They have the SCORM files there, but they can also just be uploaded onto a web server, and just by clicking the index or this, I believe it's called story.html file, they will run just fine as well. You can also even publish it to Word if there's something you want, but it's not going to be as interactive in Word. So that's, yeah, the publishing, and then of course in Articulate 360 you have the ability to publish to Articulate 360, where you would then have the ability to interface with the other 360 products as well. Okay?
Okay. Another question that is, okay, more questions are coming in. Using eLearning Brothers templates, does that affect file size compared to other internet images and templates, or are they pretty much the same size?
Well, it's ours are. We try to optimize ours because our templates are developed within Storyline instead of outside of in another tool. We try to limit the file size and keep them down. So they are optimized. Whether they are better than every other template out there, I don't know. In terms of file size, there are hundreds and thousands of them out there. That I'm sure there are some that are smaller file size and bigger file size. But our customizable courseware, we've gone to great lengths to really try to streamline it as much as we can, so that it is optimized, and it should be a smaller file size.
All right, great. Another question here is, do the edited states only work with graphic packages, or can we create our own set of graphic states that will be recognized by Storyline?
You can create your own states as well. Just like with this guy, I could go in here and I could add a state and pull in another, add a new state that's a, maybe it's a, I'm going to call it, smiling. Oops, if I could type today, that would help. And then I could go in and I could change that image out to a new one if I had one of him already set, somewhere in my downloads folder that I don't think I have him downloaded. But by going out and finding that cutout person and do it, I could create the state that way and then just have it, upload it there. And so I could create, and you can create, almost an endless number of states. You could create 20 or 30 states, not just the 10 that we have. So no, you don't have to just use those packages. You can create your own as well.
All right, great. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any more in the questions panel. So normally that means that you've covered everything that needed to be covered, Adam. Thank you. Okay.
So we will go. We'll say then thank you for coming, and make sure you go check this out. There are lots of webinars. You can feel free to reach out to me as well, but I'll give it back to Andrew to kind of wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. Like Adam said, you can grab a free template or a free module. That one's available, and I'll send out an email after this webinar that will include links to that free module, so you can try out what Adam demonstrated today. There's a question here: do you have to purchase the package, the entire customizable courseware, or can you just purchase them module by module? You can definitely purchase them individually. Call that number on the screen, 801-796-2767, and our people would love to show you what is in each module. They'd love to walk you through it, show you what is taught, what is available, what kind of scenarios are used, and then you can make a better decision as to if you want to grab the whole library, or just a la carte each course. So that's definitely available to you. Schedule a demo if you want to see more of this, or go download the sample module. Thank you, Adam. This has been great, and we'll look forward to seeing the same thing next month in Captivate. If you're curious how to do some of these processes in Captivate, please come back. Do you have any other thoughts, Adam? Do you want to share before closing?
Yeah, just again to touch on, I would strongly encourage you to download that free sample module, either of the professional soft skills or the sales training. just to get a feel for how they're designed. We went into one interaction, and there are countless others in terms of drag and drop and other types of interactions that you can see, and also to see the quiz files and so forth, and to get a feel for how you would do some of the things that we've talked about today. So, you know, the free module doesn't cost you anything but an email address, and you can download that and play with it all you want, and then see how it works. So
Another question came up when downloading the free module. If they wanted to play with Cutout People, do they have to buy the Cutout People library? If you want the full access that Adam has, then yes, you'll need to purchase it, but there are some Cutout People available in the free library that you can play with and test with a little bit. So, I mean, if you're just trying to see if it's going to work for you, by all means, dive in and play around with what's offered out there to give you a taste of what eLearning Brothers can do for you. Because there's a lot of power in this customizable courseware in all of the libraries that are available inside of it. So, I'm pretty confident you'll find what you need in there. Thanks again, Adam. Thanks, everybody, and be looking for that email that'll include links to that free module. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.